Captain Veltar stared at the damage report on his screen and felt his heart sink. The Cathani exploration ship Seeker of Truth was dying around him. What had started as a routine survey mission to the Outer Rim had turned into a nightmare. When a swarm of micrometeorites punched through their shields like they were made of paper. "Sir, the life support systems are failing," reported his science officer Zixtile, her voice shaking. "We have maybe 3 standard rotations before the air recyclers give out completely." Veltar looked around the bridge at his crew of 12. They were all scientists, explorers who had spent their lives studying peaceful alien worlds and cataloging harmless plant life. None of them had ever faced death before. In the civilized galaxy, ships like theirs were always rescued quickly by the Galactic Federation's patrol fleets. "Have we received any response to our distress signal?" he asked. "Nothing, sir," replied Communications Officer Rental. "The nearest Federation patrol is still 18 standard rotations away. Even if they left right now, they wouldn't reach us in time." The bridge fell silent, except for the steady beeping of alarms. Veltar had commanded survey vessels for 40 years, and he had never lost a crew member. He was about to lose them all, drifting helplessly in the empty space between stars. "Sir, I'm detecting something on the sensors," Zixtel called out. "Suddenly, a ship is approaching us. Fast." Veltar turned to look at his science officer. "Federation? No, sir. The configuration is completely unknown. It's not in any of our databases." On the main screen, a ship appeared that made Veltar's blood run cold. It was nothing like the smooth, curved vessels of the Federation.
The ship
Was angular and aggressive, covered in what looked like armor plating. Strange energy signatures pulsed along its hull, and weapon ports were clearly visible on every surface. "Are they responding to our distress signal?" Veltar asked. "Yes, sir. They're transmitting on standard emergency frequencies," Rental reported. "They identify themselves as the UES Valiant, representing something called the Terran Federation." Veltar had never heard of Terrans before. In all his years of studying galactic civilizations, no species by that name had ever been encountered. Yet here they were, responding to a distress call with remarkable speed. "Put them through," he ordered. The main screen flickered, and suddenly, Veltar was looking at an alien unlike anything he had ever seen. The creature had pale skin, strange hair on the top of its head, and 2 eyes that seemed to look right through him. But what disturbed Veltar most was the intensity in those eyes. This being looked like it was constantly ready for battle. "This is Captain Lisa Hayes of the EU's Valiant," the alien said in perfect galactic standard. "We received your distress signal and are moving to assist." "What is your situation?" Veltar tried to keep his voice steady. "This is Captain Veltar of the Cathani vessel, Seeker of Truth. We've suffered severe hull damage and life support failure. My crew will not survive much longer," alien called. Hayes nodded quickly. "Understood. We're scanning your vessel now. Our sensors show 12 life signs aboard your ship. We'll have a repair team ready to board you within the hour." The transmission ended, and Veltar stared at the screen in confusion. Who were these Terrans? How had they appeared so quickly? And why did their ship look like it was built for war rather than exploration? "Sir, they're moving alongside us," reported Navigation Officer Trellman. "I've never seen ship handling like this. They're matching our drift perfectly without using any visible thrusters." Through the viewports, Veltar could see the Terran ship moving with impossible precision. It was 3 times the size of the Seeker of Truth, but it moved like a small fighter craft. Whatever these beings were, they were clearly master pilots. "Incoming transmission," announced Rental. This time a different Terran appeared on the screen. This one was male, with darker skin and short hair. He wore some kind of uniform that looked both practical and militaristic. "This is Commander Rick Parker. I'm leading the boarding party to assist with your repairs. We'll need access to your cargo bay," of course Veltar replied. "But I should warn you, our atmosphere may not be suitable for your species." The Terran smiled, showing white teeth. "Don't worry about us, Captain. We've got that covered." 20 minutes later, Veltar watched in amazement as the Terran boarding party entered his ship. They wore advanced environmental suits that seemed to adapt automatically to the Cathani atmosphere. Each Terran moved with a fluid grace that suggested incredible physical conditioning. "Commander." Parker approached Veltar and removed his helmet. "Captain, my team is already working on your hull breaches. Should have life support restored within 2 hours. How is that possible?" Veltar asked. "Our damage control estimates said it would take days to repair." "Different approach," Parker replied simply. "We're used to emergency situations." As the repair work began, Veltar observed the Terrans with growing fascination and concern. They worked with an efficiency that seemed almost supernatural. Tools appeared in their hands as if by magic. They sealed hull breaches that his crew had thought impossible to repair. Most disturbing of all, they moved through the damaged areas of his ship without any apparent fear. Sir Zixtal whispered to him, "Their biological readings are extremely unusual. Their cardiovascular systems operate at pressures that would kill most known species. Their bone density is triple the galactic average. And their neural activity patterns suggest they're constantly prepared for combat." Veltar watched as a Terran engineer named Tony Clark worked on the main life support unit. The being's hands moved with incredible precision, rewiring complex systems in minutes that would have taken Cathani technicians hours to understand. "Where did you learn to repair Cathani technology?" Velta asked. Clark looked up from his work. "We didn't. We're figuring it out as we go. The basic principles are the same across most species." The casual way Clark said this made Veltara's skin crawl. These beings were adapting to completely alien technology in real time, as if such challenges were routine. Dr. Amy Rodriguez, the Valiant's medical officer, approached with a scanner in her hands. "Captain Veltar, I'd like to run some basic scans on your crew to make sure they haven't been affected by the atmospheric contamination." As Rodriguez worked, Veltar noticed that her movements were precise and controlled, but there was something predatory about the way she observed his crew. Her eyes missed nothing, cataloging every detail with the focus of a hunter studying prey. "Your species is fascinating," she said quietly. "You've evolved on a much gentler world than we have. Lower gravity, stable climate, minimal predators. Very different from where we come from." "What kind of world do Terrans come from?" Veltar asked. Rodriguez paused in her scanning. "A dangerous one. High gravity, extreme weather, lots of things that wanted to eat us. Made us tough, I suppose." The repair work continued for hours, with the Terrans showing no signs of fatigue. They worked in shifts, but even their rest periods seemed more like combat readiness than actual relaxation. Veltar noticed that they never fully lowered their guard, always watching for potential threats. "Hull integrity restored," announced Parker over the communication system. "Life support is back online at full capacity. Your ship is space-worthy again." The speed of the repair was impossible. What should have taken days had been completed in hours. Veltar felt a mixture of gratitude and deep unease. "How can we thank you?" he asked Parker. "No thanks necessary," the Terran replied. "We help those who need it. That's what we do." As the boarding party prepared to leave, Veltar realized that this encounter had changed everything. Somewhere in the galaxy, there was a species that made the impossible seem routine. The Terrans had appeared from nowhere, saved his crew, and asked for nothing in return. But as he watched their ship disappear into the void, Veltar couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy had just become a much more dangerous place. Not because the Terrans were hostile, because they represented something that no one had ever encountered before, a species that had turned survival into an art form. The rescue was over, but Veltar suspected that the real story was just beginning. Captain Hayes stood in the medical bay of the EU's Valiant, watching Dr. Amy Rodriguez examine the Cathani crew members. The aliens had been aboard the human ship for 6 hours now, recovering from their ordeal while their own vessel was being fully repaired by the engineering teams. "Their physiology is remarkable," Rodriguez reported to the assembled human officers. "Extremely delicate by our standards. Their bones are hollow like bird bones, their skin is thin as paper, and their hearts pump at about half the rate of a human at rest." Commander Parker leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "They seem intelligent enough. Their technology is pretty advanced, too. Advanced in some ways, agreed Chief Engineer Tony Clark. But their ship design is all wrong for survival. No armor. No redundant systems. No emergency protocols. It's like they've never considered that something might go wrong. Hayes nodded thoughtfully. Through the medical bay windows, she could see Captain Veltar speaking with Communications Officer Danny Walsh. The alien looked nervous, constantly glancing around as if expecting danger. Captain Hayes called Dr. Rodriguez. You should hear what Captain Veltar just told me about Earth. Hayes approached the Cathani captain, who was sitting on a medical bed that had been adjusted for his smaller frame. Veltar looked up at her with those large, dark eyes that seemed to hold both gratitude and fear. Dr. Rodriguez says you have questions about our home world, Hayes said gently. Veltar's translator device flickered as he spoke. Captain, according to our galactic surveys, your solar system was marked as containing only primitive life. We believed your species had barely achieved nuclear technology. When was this survey done? Asked Hayes. Approximately 200 of your years ago, Veltar replied. We classified your world as a Class 12 death world. Uninhabitable for civilized species. Hayes raised an eyebrow. Death world. The atmospheric pressure would crush most beings, Veltar explained, his voice growing more animated. The gravity is nearly triple our standard. The temperature variations are extreme. And the predator-to-prey ratio suggests constant warfare among your planet's species. The human officers exchanged glances. Navigation Officer Beth Collins spoke up. Captain, I've been reviewing their star charts. They've marked dozens of worlds as uninhabitable that we've successfully colonized. Show me, Hayes ordered. Collins activated a holographic display showing human space. The Cathani crew members gasped as they saw the extent of human colonization. Worlds that their databases marked as deadly wastelands were shown as thriving human settlements. You live on New Sahara? Asked Sixtel, the Cathani science officer. The daytime temperature reaches 80 degrees Celsius. Hot but manageable, replied Collins with a shrug. We have cooling systems. And Frostpoint? Veltar asked, pointing to another world on the display. The atmosphere is mostly methane. Temperature never rises above -40 degrees. Mining colony explained. Chief Medical Officer, Greg Turner? About 50,000 people living there. They seem to like it. The Cathani stared at the humans in disbelief. Veltar's translator worked overtime as he spoke rapidly to his crew in their own language before turning back to Hayes. Captain, how do you survive in such conditions? These worlds would kill my people within minutes. Hayes sat down across from Veltar. We adapt. It's what we do. But the physical stress alone, protested Zixtel. Your species shows signs of constant combat readiness. Your heart rates, your muscle density, your reflexes, you're like living weapons. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up her medical scans on the display. Captain Veltar, I'd like to show you some baseline human physiological data. Maybe it will help explain things. The data that appeared on the screen made the Cathani crew recoil in shock. Human reaction times were 3 times faster than the galactic average. Pain tolerance was off the charts. Most alarming of all, humans could function normally in gravitational fields that would literally crush most Federation species. This is impossible, whispered Veltar. No species could evolve such capabilities without constant mortal threat. Earth wasn't a gentle place, Hayes admitted. Still isn't in many ways. We had to be tough to survive. Engineer Tony Clark joined the conversation. Captain Veltar, can you tell us about this Galactic Federation? We've never heard of it before. Veltar seemed grateful for the change of subject. The Federation is a union of 847 peaceful species. We share knowledge, explore the galaxy together, and help each other advance. We've had peace for over 1,000 years. No wars? Asked Security Chief Paul Adams. None. Veltar replied proudly. We settled our differences through discussion and compromise long ago. What about the Outer Rim? Hayes asked. Why were you out here alone? The mood in the room changed instantly. Veltar's posture slumped, and his crew members looked away uncomfortable. There have been some problems recently, Veltar said quietly. A species called the Vertog has been attacking our outer colonies. They don't respond to diplomatic contact. Attacking how? Adams asked, his voice sharp. They destroy everything, Zixtel answered. cities, ships, people. They take nothing, leave nothing, just destruction. Hayes leaned forward. What has the Federation done about this? We've sent diplomatic missions, Veltar explained. We've offered trade agreements, cultural exchanges, territory. Nothing works. They just keep attacking. Have you fought back? Parker asked. The question seemed to confuse Veltar. Fought back. We're not warriors, Commander. We're explorers, scientists, diplomats. We don't have armies or weapons of war. The human officers stared at him in disbelief. Adams spoke first. You have no military? We have security forces for maintaining order, Veltar replied. But nothing. Designed for warfare. We've never needed such things. Hayes stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. How many worlds have they attacked? 17 so far, Veltar answered. Each attack is larger than the last. Our projections suggest they're building up for something much worse. How many people have died? Hayes asked quietly. We estimate around 12 million, Veltar said, his voice breaking. Entire colonies gone. The Federation Council keeps sending negotiators, but they're always killed or ignored. The silence in the medical bay was heavy. Finally, Hayes turned back to the Cathani captain. Captain Veltar, I need to ask you something important. If someone offered to help the Federation deal with this threat, would the Council listen? Veltar looked up hopefully. You would do that? But you're just one ship. Hayes smiled, and Veltar noticed that the expression somehow made him both hopeful and nervous. We're never just one ship, Captain. Humans travel in groups. Communications Officer Danny Walsh stepped forward. Captain, I've been monitoring our long-range communications. Earth Command has been trying to reach us. Put them through, Hayes ordered. The main display activated, showing Admiral Frank Rodriguez at Earth Command headquarters. The sight of another human in a military uniform made the Cathani crew step back involuntarily. Captain Hayes, we've been tracking your situation, the Admiral said. Is it true you've made contact with an alien civilization? Yes, sir. A peaceful species called the Cathani. They're part of something called the Galactic Federation. This federation is under attack? Hayes glanced at Veltar, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, sir, by a hostile species called the Vertog. The Federation has no military capability to defend itself. Admiral Rodriguez was quiet for a moment, clearly processing the information. Captain, you're to escort the alien vessel to the nearest Federation facility. Make formal contact with their leadership. And Hayes, yes, sir. The Fourth Fleet is being mobilized. If these people need help, they'll have it. The transmission ended, and Veltar stared at the humans in amazement. You would send an entire fleet to help us. That's what we do, Hayes replied. We protect those who can't protect themselves. As the Valiant changed course toward Federation space, Veltar found himself studying the humans with new eyes. We're not just survivors from a harsh world. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that had turned their struggle for survival into a desire to help others survive. For the first time since the Vertog attacks began, Veltar felt hope. The arrival of the EU's Valiant at Starbase Kepler-7 created chaos throughout Federation space. News of first contact with a new species spread faster than light itself, carried by quantum communication arrays to every corner of the galaxy. Ambassador Krendith stood in the main docking bay, surrounded by representatives from dozens of species. The Cathani had provided detailed reports about the humans, but seeing them in person was entirely different. Even through the reinforced viewport, the beings moving inside the human ship looked dangerous. They're so tall, whispered Counselor. Jethma, a delicate Zephyrian whose species rarely grew taller than 4 feet. And look at how they move, like predators. The docking bay doors opened, and the human delegation emerged. Captain Hayes led the group, flanked by Chief Science Officer Rachel Green and Security Chief Paul Adams. Even in dress uniforms, the humans radiated an aura of barely contained violence that made most of the assembled aliens step back. Welcome to Federation Space, Ambassador Krendoff said, his translator struggling with the formal diplomatic greeting. I am Ambassador Krendoff, speaking for the Federation Council. Hayes stepped forward and offered her hand. The gesture confused Krendoff until Captain Veltar whispered an explanation about human greeting customs. The ambassador tentatively extended his own hand, surprised by the firm grip and the strength he felt in the human's fingers. "Thank you, Ambassador," Hayes replied. "We're honored to meet representatives of the Galactic Federation." The formal reception was held in the station's main conference hall, a vast room designed to accommodate the various atmospheric and gravitational needs of different species. The humans adapted to the environment with typical efficiency, their suits automatically adjusting to the alien conditions. Dr. Ellen Wright, humanity's lead xenobiologist, stood before the assembled delegates with a presentation that would change galactic history. The holographic display showed detailed scans of human physiology, capability assessments, and cultural analysis. The human species originates from a world we now understand you classify as a Class 12 death world. Dr. Wright began. This environment has shaped our evolution in ways that make us uniquely suited for survival in extreme conditions. The data that appeared on the screen made several delegates gasp. Human temperature tolerance ranged from Arctic cold to desert heat. They could function on minimal sleep for days. Their immune systems could adapt to alien pathogens with frightening speed. Most shocking of all, they possessed an almost supernatural ability to find solutions in impossible situations. "This is remarkable," said Counselor Lexron, elderly Altarian, whose species was known for their advanced medical knowledge. "Your healing rate is 10 times the galactic average. Your pain tolerance is beyond our measurement scales." "We've had to be tough," replied Dr. Wright simply. "Our world didn't give us much choice." The presentation continued with examples of human colonization efforts. World after world appeared on the display, each one marked as uninhabitable in Federation databases, but thriving under human settlement. The delegates watched in stunned silence as they saw humans living in conditions that would kill most civilized species within minutes. "You established a colony inside the corona of a star," stated Dr. Yixtal, the Federation's chief scientist. "How is this possible?" "Solar energy collection," explained Chief Engineer Tony Clark, who had joined the presentation, via hologram from the Valiant. "We needed a power source for our deep space mining operations. Corona provides unlimited energy if you can handle the heat." "And you can handle the heat?" asked Dr. Yixtal. "With the right equipment, sure," Clark replied with a casual shrug. That made half the delegates flinch. The cultural exchange was interrupted by urgent alarms throughout the station. Admiral Vexen, the Federation's military commander, rushed into the conference hall with panic in his eyes. "Council members, we have a crisis," he announced. "The Vertog Empire has launched their largest offensive yet. They're attacking Nexus Prime." The room fell silent. Nexus Prime was one of the Federation's most important industrial worlds, home to over 1 billion people. It was also heavily defended by the Federation's most advanced security systems. "What's the situation?" asked Ambassador Krendoff. "3 of our defense fleets have been destroyed," Admiral Vexan reported. "The Vertog have deployed over 200 warships. Our evacuation vessels can only save a fraction of the population before they reach the planet." "How long do we have?" asked Counselor Zertek. "Our projections show 18 hours before the Vertog reach the planet's surface," Vexen replied. "We estimate 900 million casualties." The delegates began talking frantically among themselves. This was exactly the kind of scenario that had paralyzed the Federation for months. They had advanced technology, but no experience with warfare. Their ships were built for exploration, not combat. Captain Hayes stood slowly, her movement cutting through the chaos like a blade. "If the Federation Council grants us temporary military authorization, humanity will respond to this crisis." The room went quiet. Admiral Dexon looked at her with desperate hope and obvious skepticism. "Captain, with respect, you have 1 ship," he said. "The Vertog have deployed their entire battle fleet. Over 200 vessels, each one designed for war." Hayes smiled, and every alien in the room felt their survival instincts scream warnings. "Then we'll need to be creative." Communications Officer Ben Turner worked frantically at a portable communication station. "Captain, I've established contact with Earth Command. Admiral Rodriguez is standing by. The main display activated, showing Admiral Frank Rodriguez aboard the UES Defiant. Behind him, the bridge bustled with activity as crew members prepared for combat operations. "Captain Hayes, we've been monitoring the situation," Rodriguez said. "The Fourth Fleet is already en route to your position. We should arrive at Nexus Prime in 14 hours. "How many ships?" asked Admiral Lexan. 37 combat vessels, Rodriguez replied, including heavy cruisers, destroyers, and support ships, plus Marine battalions for ground operations. If needed, the Federation delegates stared at the display in amazement. The human fleet was one-sixth the size of the Vertog force. But something about Admiral Rodriguez's confidence suggested that numbers might not matter. Admiral Hayes said, "What's our tactical assessment?" "The Vertog fight like most galactic species," Rodriguez explained. "Large formations, predictable patterns, conventional tactics. They've never faced an enemy that thinks in 3 dimensions." "What does that mean?" asked Counselor Jethma. "It means they're about to learn why you don't threaten human friends," Rodriguez replied with a grin that made several delegates shiver. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Human ships began arriving at the station, each one clearly built for war. Unlike Federation vessels with their smooth, elegant lines, human ships were angular and aggressive. Bristling with weapon systems and armored like fortresses, the EU's Thunderbolt docked first, commanded by Captain Julie Henderson. Her ship was a heavy cruiser designed for long-range combat, with enough firepower to level a small moon. The crew that emerged moved with the same predatory grace as all humans, but their eyes held the cold focus of professional warriors. Henderson Hayes said, as the 2 women met in the docking bay. "How's the fleet looking?" "Ready for war?" Henderson replied. The cruiser excited. "It's been a while since we've had a real fight." The casual way she said this made Captain Veltar, who was observing nearby, step back nervously. These humans spoke of war like others might discuss the weather. More ships arrived throughout the day. The UES Ranger, a fast destroyer commanded by Commander Steve Mitchell. The UES Discovery, a science vessel that had been converted for combat operations. Each ship brought more evidence of humanity's military capabilities. Dr. Nancy Foster, Humanities, expert on galactic psychology, worked with Federation scientists to analyze the tactical situation. Her research revealed disturbing patterns in Vertog behavior. "They're not just conquerors," she explained to the Joint Command staff. "They're testing the galaxy's defenses. Each attack has been larger and more aggressive than the last. They're preparing for something much bigger." "What kind of something?" asked Ambassador Kreneth. "Total galactic conquest," Foster replied. "They've been probing for weaknesses, finding out how the Federation responds to threats. And so far, they've learned that the Federation doesn't respond at all." The final briefing was held in the station's main conference room. Human and Federation officers sat around the table, planning the defense of Nexus Prime. The contrast between the two groups was stark. Federation officers looked nervous and uncertain, while humans appeared calm and focused. "The Vertog will expect us to meet them in open space," explained Admiral Rodriguez. "Large fleet formations, traditional tactics. Instead, we're going to hit them from every direction at once." "How is that possible?" asked Admiral Vexen. "Human. Ships are designed for independent operations," Rodriguez replied. "We can fight alone or in groups. The Vertog have never seen tactics like ours." As the fleet prepared to depart for Nexus Prime, Captain Hayes found herself standing in the observation deck with Captain Veltar. The Cathani looked out at the human warships with a mixture of awe and fear. "Your people are remarkable," he said quietly. The Battle of Nexus Prime began at 0800 hours Galactic Standard Time, when the Vertogor fleet dropped out of hyperspace in a massive formation that blotted out the stars. Admiral Kreltak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Doombringer, watching his force of 200 warships move toward the defenseless planet below. "Admiral, we're detecting Federation evacuation vessels fleeing the system," reported his tactical officer. "No sign of their pathetic defense fleet." Kreltak's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. The Federation had proven to be exactly as weak. As expected, 18 previous attacks had shown that these soft civilizations would run rather than fight. Soon, the entire galaxy would bow before Vertog might. Begin bombardment of the orbital facilities, he ordered. We will reduce this world to ash within the hour. The Vertog ships moved in perfect formation, their massive guns charging for the killing blow. Then something appeared on their sensors that made no sense at all. I'm detecting ships coming out of hyperspace called the sensor operator. Unknown configuration. They're small, but moving very fast. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the enemy fleet through the tactical display. The Vertog ships were enormous, each one 3 times the size of a human cruiser. But size wasn't everything in space combat. All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez, he announced over the fleet communication channel. Execute Operation Wasp Nest. Remember, we're not trying to overpower them, we're trying to confuse them. The human fleet split into 7 groups, each one attacking from a different direction. The UES Ranger led the first wave, Commander Steve Mitchell pushing his destroyer to maximum speed as he dove toward the enemy formation. Sir, they're not following any recognized tactical pattern, reported the Vertog tactical officer to Admiral Kreltok. They're attacking from impossible angles. Kreltok watched in confusion as the human ships moved like nothing he had ever seen. They twisted and turned through space, dodging weapons fire that should have destroyed them. Worse, they seemed to be attacking from directions that made no strategic sense. Target the lead ship, he ordered. Concentrate all forward batteries. Doombringer's massive guns fired at the EU's Ranger, but Mitchell was already gone, his ship diving below. The Vertog formation, in a maneuver that violated every rule of space combat. No ship should attack from underneath an enemy fleet, yet that's exactly what the human destroyer was doing. Ranger to all units, Mitchell's voice crackled over the communication channel. I've got a clear shot at their flagship's belly. These things have no bottom armor at all. The Ranger's weapons tore into the Doombringer's underside, causing massive explosions that lit up the darkness of space. Admiral Kreltok felt his ship shake as systems failed throughout the vessel. How are they below us? He demanded. Space has no up or down. Sir, the humans seem to think differently about 3-dimensional combat, his tactical officer replied nervously. They're using the entire battlefield, not just the traditional plane. Captain Julie Henderson's heavy cruiser U.S. Thunderbolt demonstrated this perfectly by diving through the center of the Vertog formation. Her weapons firing in all directions. The enemy ships tried to target her, but she moved with a speed, an unpredictability that made their targeting systems useless. Thunderbolt 2 Fleet, Henderson reported. Their shields are strong in front, but weak on the sides. We can punch through if we hit them from the flanks. The human battle plan was unlike anything seen in galactic warfare. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on in traditional formation, they swarmed around the Vertog ships like angry insects, striking from every possible angle before disappearing into space. On the surface of Nexus Prime, the billion inhabitants watched the battle through their orbital monitors. They had expected to die today, but instead they saw something impossible. The smaller human fleet was winning. Sir, we've lost 12 ships already, reported the Vertog tactical officer. The humans are too fast, too unpredictable. Our gunners can't track them. Admiral Kreltok's confidence was cracking. The Vertog had conquered 17 worlds using overwhelming firepower and traditional tactics. But these humans fought like they had been born in space, moving through the battlefield with an instinctive understanding of 3-dimensional combat. Deploy the planet killer, he ordered desperately. If we can't defeat them in space, we'll destroy the world they're trying to protect. The planet killer was the Vertog's most feared weapon, a massive energy beam capable of cracking planetary crusts. It had never been used in actual combat, but desperate times required desperate measures. Lieutenant Commander Matt Sullivan watched from the bridge of the UES Discovery as the enemy flagship began charging its super weapon. The science vessel had been analyzing Vertog technology throughout the battle, and Sullivan had noticed something interesting about their energy systems. Admiral Rodriguez, this is the Discovery, he reported. I'm reading massive energy buildup on the enemy flagship. They're preparing to fire some kind of directed energy weapon at the planet. Can you stop it? Rodriguez asked. Let's stop it, Sullivan replied with a grin that his crew had learned to fear, but maybe redirect it. The Discovery moved into position, directly between the Vertog flagship and Nexus Prime. The ship's experimental shield generators began operating at 400% capacity, creating a barrier of pure energy that had never been tested in combat. Sir, the human ship is moving into the beam's path, reported the Vertog weapons officer. They're trying to block our shot. Admiral Kreltok laughed harshly. One small ship against our planet killer. Fire. The massive energy beam erupted. From the Doombringer, a lance of destruction that could shatter worlds, struck the Discovery's shields with the force of a small star. And for a moment it seemed that the human ship would be vaporized instantly. Then something impossible happened. The Discovery's shields held, and the planet killer beam began to bend. Sullivan had configured the shield generators to create a reflective barrier, turning the Vertog weapon into a massive mirror. What are they doing? Kreltok demanded. The question was answered when the redirected beam struck the Vertog formation. The energy that had been meant to destroy Nexus's Prime instead tore through the enemy fleet, destroying dozens of ships in a single, catastrophic strike. The remaining Vertog vessels reeled in shock and confusion. Their own superweapon had been turned against them by an enemy that seemed to defy every law of physics and warfare. All ships. This is Admiral Rodriguez, the human commander announced. The enemy is in disarray. Press the attack. The human fleet swarmed the surviving Vertog, ships like wolves attacking a wounded animal. The UES Ranger and US Thunderbolt worked in perfect coordination, their weapons tearing through enemy armor with surgical precision. The UES Discovery, its shields still glowing from the reflected planet killer beam, joined the assault with weapons that had been modified on the fly. Marine Colonel Chris Baker had been waiting for his moment. As the space battle raged above, his dropships launched toward the Vertog command ship. The enemy had never faced boarding actions before, and their internal defenses were designed for ship-to-ship combat, not infantry assault. 1st Battalion. This is Baker, he announced over the tactical channel. We're going aboard the enemy flagship. Remember, we need prisoners for intelligence gathering. The human Marines moved through the Vertog ship like a force of nature. They fought in zero gravity, toxic atmospheres, and cramped corridors with equal effectiveness. The Vertog soldiers had never encountered infantry that could adapt to any environment within minutes. Sir, the humans have boarded our ship, reported a panicked Vertog officer. They're fighting in sections we sealed off due to atmospheric breaches. Admiral Kreltok stared at his displays in disbelief. These humans fought in conditions that would kill his own troops. They moved through his ship like they owned it, adapting to alien technology and hostile environments with frightening speed. Surrender, he whispered. Sir, his tactical officer asked. Signal surrender, Kreltok said louder. We cannot defeat these creatures. The Battle of Nexus Prime ended with the complete surrender of the Vertog fleet. Of the 200 ships that had arrived to destroy the planet, only 47 remained operational. The human fleet had lost 3 ships and suffered minimal casualties. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching as Vertog ships powered down their weapons and submitted to human boarding parties. The victory was complete, but he knew this was just the beginning. All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez, he announced. Secure the prisoners and gather intelligence. We need to know where the Vertog main fleet is located. On Nexus Prime, 1 billion people looked up at the stars and saw something they had never expected. Victory. The humans had done the impossible, turning a hopeless situation into a crushing defeat of the galaxy's most feared enemy. The news of the battle spread throughout Federation space at light speed. For the first time in galactic history, the Vertog had been defeated in open combat. The humans had proven that the galaxy's deadliest predators could be beaten by beings who had turned survival into an art form. The Federation Council Chamber had never seen a gathering like this before. Representatives from all 847 member species filled the massive hall, their voices creating a chorus of different languages and dialects. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Patricia Scott, humanity's first permanent representative to the Galactic Federation. The Battle of Nexus Prime has changed everything, announced Council President Mordeth, his ancient voice carrying across the chamber. For the first time in galactic history, the Vertog Empire has been defeated in open combat. The chamber erupted in excited chatter. Species that had lived in fear for years now dared to hope that their nightmare might finally be ending. Ambassador Scott knew the truth was more complicated than that. "Council members," she said, her voice cutting through the noise, "the Vertog will return. They always do. But next time, they'll face a united galaxy that's prepared to defend itself." The integration of human military tactics into Federation strategy proved more challenging than anyone had expected. Many species found human methods disturbing, even when they worked perfectly. The concept of acceptable losses was foreign to civilizations that had never faced real threats. Commander Ryan Clark stood in the new Joint Military Academy on Luna Base. Watching as alien officers struggled with basic combat simulations, the Altarians couldn't understand why anyone would charge into enemy fire. The Zephyrians found the idea of hand-to-hand combat horrifying. Even the bravest Federation species had trouble thinking like warriors. "The key is not to fight like humans," Clark explained to his mixed class of human and alien officers. "The key is to think like humans. We don't fight because we enjoy it. We fight because someone has to." Captain Kevin Roberts had been given command of the new flagship UESFF's Harmony, the first vessel designed by both human and Federation engineers. The ship combined the best of both technologies, Federation science and human military design. Its mixed crew of humans and aliens worked together with growing effectiveness. "Captain, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Sandra White. "Admiral Rodriguez wants to speak with you." The main display activated, showing Admiral Rodriguez in his office at Fleet Headquarters. Behind him, Roberts could see the bustle of activity as the human military adapted to its new role as galactic protectors. "Captain Roberts, we've received intelligence from the Vertog prisoners," Rodriguez said. "They're regrouping for a massive counterattack. Our sources suggest they're planning to attack the Federation capital itself." "How long do we have?" Roberts asked. 6 months, maybe less," Rodriguez replied. "They're pulling ships from across their empire. This will be their largest fleet ever assembled." The news spread quickly through Federation space. The Vertog Empire, stung by their defeat at Nexus Prime, was preparing for total war. Intelligence reports suggested a fleet of over 2,000 ships converging on the galactic core. Dr. Nancy Foster worked around the clock with Federation scientists to understand the enemy's psychology. Her research revealed disturbing patterns in Vertog behavior that went beyond simple conquest. "They're not just trying to defeat us," she explained to the Joint Command staff. "They're trying to prove that strength is the only thing that matters in the universe." Our victory at Nexus Prime challenged their entire worldview. The preparation for the coming battle transformed the galaxy. Human shipyards worked overtime to build new vessels, while Federation factories produced weapons and armor using human designs. Most importantly, the peaceful species of the Federation began to learn what it meant to be soldiers. Captain Julie Henderson commanded the training exercises in the Rigel system, where mixed fleets practiced the three-dimensional combat tactics that had proven so effective against the Vertog. Watching alien crews learn to fight like humans was both inspiring and heartbreaking. "They're trying so hard," she reported to Admiral Rodriguez. "But they're not natural warriors. They think too much, hesitate too long. In a real battle, that hesitation will get them killed." "Then we make sure they don't have to hesitate," Rodriguez replied. "Human ships take point. Federation vessels provide support. We protect them while they protect the galaxy." The first major test came when Vertog raiders attacked the mining world of Titan's Edge. The Joint Defense Fleet, led by Commander Steve Mitchell in the EU's Ranger, responded with the new combined tactics. "All Federation vessels, this is Mitchell," he announced over the command channel. "Stay in formation and follow our lead. We'll break their lines, you clean up the survivors." The battle was a perfect demonstration of the new partnership. Human ships struck like lightning, shattering the enemy formation with unpredictable attacks. Federation vessels followed up with precise weapons fire, their advanced targeting systems picking off damaged enemies with surgical accuracy. "It's working," reported Captain Hayes from the EU's Valiant. "The Federation crews are gaining confidence, starting to think like warriors." But the real change was happening on the ground. Marine Colonel Chris Baker had established training camps on a dozen worlds, teaching Federation security forces how to fight like humans. The transformation was remarkable. "They're not trying to become human," Baker explained to visiting dignitaries. "They're learning to be the best versions of themselves. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what's right even when you are afraid." The Vertog Empire watched these developments with growing alarm. Their spies reported that the Federation was changing, becoming something they had never encountered before. A peaceful civilization that was learning to fight. "The humans are contaminating them," reported Intelligence Chief Ractor to the Vertog. "High Command, they're turning pacifists into warriors. If this continues, the entire galaxy will become like the humans." "Then we end this quickly," replied Supreme Commander Greykthal. "We destroy the Federation capital and crush their spirit before they can fully adapt." The final battle began 3 months earlier than expected. The Vertog Grand Fleet, 2,000 ships strong, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. They had decided to strike at the heart of human space. Believing that defeating Earth would break the alliance, they were wrong. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching as the enemy fleet approached Earth's solar system. Around him, the largest fleet in human history prepared for battle. Every available ship had been called home to defend humanity's birthworld. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy," reported Communications Officer Ben Turner. "Federation fleets are jumping to our assistance." What followed was the most beautiful sight in galactic history. Ships from 847 different species emerged from hyperspace, their crews ready to fight alongside humanity. The Cathani brought their advanced sensors. The Altarians contributed their medical ships. Even the peaceful Zephyrians had armed their vessels for war. "This is Council President Mordeth," came a transmission from the Federation flagship. "Humanity stood with us when we needed help. Now we stand with you." The Battle of Sol lasted 3 days and changed the galaxy forever. Human tactics, Federation technology, and unified determination proved unstoppable. The Vertog Grand Fleet was not just defeated but completely destroyed, their dreams of conquest ending in the cold vacuum of space. Supreme Commander Greykthal, captured alive from his flagship, stared at Admiral Rodriguez with confusion and defeat. "How?" he asked simply. "We learned something you never did," Rodriguez replied. "Strength isn't about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves." The aftermath of the battle saw the formation of the Terran Federation Defense Alliance, a permanent military partnership between humanity and the peaceful species of the galaxy. Human ships patrolled the outer rim while Federation vessels explored new worlds under their protection. Captain Kevin Roberts stood on the bridge of the UESFS Harmony, watching his mixed crew work together with perfect coordination. Human efficiency, combined with alien wisdom, created something neither species could have achieved alone. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from the Andromeda sector," reported his alien communications officer. "Known raiders attacking a peaceful colony." Roberts smiled, the expression no longer frightening to his alien crew. "Set course for Andromeda. Maximum speed." "Sir, shouldn't we wait for reinforcements?" asked his human first officer. "We are the reinforcements," Roberts replied. "Besides, it's what we do." The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but for the first time in its history, it had guardians who understood that true strength came not from conquest, but from protection. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as the shield that stood between civilization and chaos. The aliens hadn't known who would answer their distress call that day. When the seeker of truth was dying in the void, they had hoped for rescue but found something better, a species that had turned survival into a way of life and protection into a sacred duty. The galaxy was safer now. watched over by beings who had learned that the greatest victory was not in defeating enemies but in ensuring that others never had to face such dangers alone. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and the universe would never be the same.